It's a good Monday afternoon, and we're jumping into another conversation on Let's Talk Business. And I'm glad to be hanging out with you guys again for this conversation. It's right at 4:30 p.m. And some of you should have had a fantastic weekend. And those some of you, I'm speaking about our mothers. Mothers should have had a fantastic weekend. I hope you did. Hope your family, your kids, or whomever, hope they spoiled you royally, as you should be spoiled or should have been spoiled. So thankful for a great Mother's Day for my wife, Omika Benjamin. Was able to see my mother, Mary Singleton. Was able to see our stepmother, or mother-in-law, Karen. Was able to see some grandparents and some great-grandparents. It was a fantastic Mother's Day weekend. Had great service in church and saw a lot of family and so forth. So happy belated Mother's Day for all of you, and hopefully you had a great Mother's Day. And so as you guys come on, be sure to drop your city and your state in the chat. We're having this conversation on Let's Talk Business, and this is probably going to be one of the best conversations that I'm going to have. Hopefully all of them are great, but I really believe this is going to be fantastic because it deals with a matter that so many entrepreneurs and small business owners struggle with, and it is the word no. And so we're going to jump into that in just a few moments. So be sure to drop your city and drop your state in the chat. Let us know where you're streaming from, and go ahead and tag someone, tag a fellow entrepreneur, tag a fellow business owner in this particular conversation, because it's vital. It's vital, whether you're a solo entrepreneur just getting started, whether you're somewhat of a seasoned entrepreneur, a couple years down the road, or whether you're the CEO of a small firm that has, 5, 10 employees, etc. This conversation is going to be, I believe, beneficial for you. So again, put your city and your state in the chat. Let us know where you're streaming from, and tag a fellow entrepreneur, small business owner, as we jump into this conversation. We normally go 20 minutes, may not go that long today, maybe go about 12 to 15, but we normally go for about 20 minutes in this conversation, because I want to go in and dive into this, because you have to understand a little bit of my psychology and a little bit of my upbringing. I need you to hang with me in this story really quickly. I've never liked hearing the word no. Growing up, the word no was not desirable. And what I mean by that is, the word no, I avoided it at all cost. Like literally, whatever I could do as a kid to not hear the word no, then I did that, even to the extent of not even asking. I want you to hear what I just said. I would do whatever was necessary to avoid hearing the word no, even to the extent of not asking. Because once you ask, now you have the potential of hearing the word no. You hear the word no, it has an impact upon you. And that impact, for most people, it trains them to be as careful and as cautious as possible, and even to be as crafty as possible, to only hear the word yes, or to give that person the highest probability of hearing the word yes. And if they don't think they're going to hear the word yes, then they just simply don't ask, or simply don't put themselves in that situation. But I want to challenge you. I want to start this conversation off by challenging your emotional intelligence right there. Because the word no, hearing the word no and responding the correct way, is really a function of high emotional intelligence. When a person has high emotional intelligence, the word no doesn't affect them the way that it does a person who has low emotional intelligence. A person who has low emotional intelligence, the word no is a cuss word. It's rejection. It's, you're bad. It's you're not good enough. It's that kind of a transaction, which is what I experienced growing up, and even into my early 20s. The word no was just a word that I avoided. Now, I was a sales professional in my first 2 jobs. I mean, I had to sell. I had to convince people to buy. I had to persuade people to take action. When I was a banker, I had to persuade people to take advantage of banking products, etc. And by persuade, I'm not talking about coerce or manipulate. I'm literally talking about showing the features and benefits of what we offered as a bank, and how those features and benefits could benefit them if they were in the market for those particular features and benefits. But even as I did that, I literally didn't focus on the clients that would potentially tell me no. I mean, literally, it was like I was very calculated. I was very deliberate But you have to understand something. I was calculated and deliberate because I had low emotional intelligence. I was calculated and deliberate because I was literally in a situation where I recognized my own limitations, and I endeavored to avoid those limitations at all costs. Now, here's the reality. You can't do business. Here's the reality. You can't be a successful sales professional. Here's the reality. You can't be a successful entrepreneur or small business owner without hearing the word no. The word no, you're going to hear that word more than the word yes. When it comes to marketing, when it comes to branding, when it comes to promotions, when it comes to sales, etc., you're going to hear the word no. And as I began my journey of personal growth, it started with Dr. Miles Monroe in his book. Then it moved over to John Maxwell and his material. And of course, the scriptures were a constant source of wisdom and insight and strength. And as I began to put those things together, between my early 20s and my mid to late 20s, the word no started having a lesser and lesser effect on me. I need you to hear what I just said now. The word no started having a lesser and lesser effect upon me. Now, in my early 20s, the word no was like, you're not good enough. It was a sign of rejection. It was, other people are better than you, etc. But the more and more I began to have conversations with successful business leaders and successful men and successful women, the more and more I began to understand that they saw the word no differently than the rest of us. Come on, if you know what I'm talking about in the chat, come on, just drop that in the chat. When you look at people who are able to pick up the phone and cold call, right, and they'll literally call someone out of the blue, and they'll just keep calling, calling people, having the phone hung up in their face, having doors slammed in their face, all of this kind of stuff, right? And they just keep going. Keep going. A great friend of mine and business client, Dale Hawkins, makes a statement often. Dale says, when you're shameless, that's when you can grow a business. But when you're prideful, you can't grow a business. Now, what he was talking about was when you're shameless, the word no doesn't faze you. A door being slammed in your face, a phone being hung up on you, or someone just saying, no, I'm not interested, or whatever. He said it doesn't bother you because you're not wearing your feelings on your shoulder. You're not wearing pride on your shoulder. And it was the first time that I ever thought about the concept of pride being connected to how I was responding or how I did respond to the word no. It was like, wow, it's a profound insight, right? Because it literally means a person thinks so highly of themselves that when someone tells them no, it's like they go into a rejection. They go into a state of, I can't believe they told me no. They get disillusioned because there's a sense of pride that they have. And guess what? The people who are in it, like me, I didn't know it was pride. I didn't see it as something prideful. So with these different perspectives and these different thoughts, and by all means, please drop in the chat how you have handled the word no, or how you're currently handling the word no, whether successful or unsuccessful. Because this is an important skill to learn as you are growing a business, that the word no is going to be or will be more frequent than the word yes. And I remember years ago when I was doing sales training, and I'm talking about years ago, 15 years ago when I was going through official sales training, the guy who was doing the sales training, I'm trying to think, what was that sales training system? I think it was Cohen Brown sales training system or something like that. I think it was Cohen Brown, maybe about 16, maybe a little bit longer than that. Yeah, maybe about 18 years ago. But I just remember going through that training, and one of the facilitators in that training, that sales training, was talking about, again, the word no. And she was talking about how when you hear the word no, it should be fuel. And I remember thinking, like, what? No, she was like, when you hear the word no, it should be fuel. And what she was saying was, it should be fuel for you to get better, for you to learn more, for you to learn your audience more, for you to learn how to overcome objections, for you to learn what people are looking for, that it should be fuel for you to learn. She said, look at no's as just simply lessons. Like, when you hear the word no, don't think, what did I do wrong, per se? Think, how can I get better? Think, what can I do better? Think, how can I be more persuasive? Think, am I really solving a problem? Think, am I really providing a solution? Think, do they really need what I'm trying to sell them? Think, can they really afford what I'm trying to sell them? Think, does this product really address a need that they have? I mean, and she began to just hammer it over and over and over again that the word no is actually an education. Let me say that again, that the word no is actually an education. It's an education on whether or not you're actually selling to the right client. It's an education as to whether or not you're actually selling the right thing to the right client. It's an education as to whether or not you even have something worth selling. You see, so what she was saying was that the word no has to be a form of education. And then when you start reading biographies, you start reading Robert Smith, and you start reading Sarah Blake, and you start reading Sarah Breedlove, you start reading Elon Musk or Bob Johnson or Jeff Bezos or so forth. You start reading these men and women, you start realizing that they got told no a lot. Now, I have to throw this in there because it's important that in most cases, in far too many cases, that when people get told the word, well, you know what? Let me take a step back because that's gonna take me beyond my 20 minutes. But I want you to understand something, that even if you are told no because of the color of your skin, even if you believe you're told no because of your gender, then that still should be an education. It shouldn't be a reason for you to throw in the towel, scale back, retreat, wave the white flag, etc. No, it still should be what? An education. An education as to whether or not I need to continue to persist with this market of people, or whether or not I need to shift to another market of people. Or maybe my product isn't as refined as it should be. Maybe I'm not clearly communicating as I should. Maybe I'm counting on people to grasp the nuances of what I'm saying instead of actually communicating the nuances of what I'm saying. Maybe I'm not, as a matter of fact, I remember a great example. I prepared a pitch deck for a product that we were launching, and I had one of my friends to review the pitch deck. And this particular pitch deck was for a new product, a new tech product that we were looking at launching and getting funding for. And I said, hey man, listen, I know you're in this space. I need you to look at this, and I need you to give me your honest feedback. And I sent it over to him, and his words to me were, Marcus, this is fantastic information, but I'm never going to read all of this. Listen, did you hear me? He said, this is fantastic. He said, but I'm never going to read all of this. And his words were, it's too dense, meaning it was too much information to have to what? Decipher, understand, disaggregate, and go through. That the pitch needed to be much more high level, much more macro, right? But what I was doing, I was trying to answer questions before people had them. I need you to hear what I just said. I was trying to answer questions before people had them. So in that particular pitch, I think it was a couple years ago. What was it? It's 23? No, it's 24. So that was 22. So I was trying to answer their questions before they had their questions, as opposed to giving them the big picture and then what? Letting them ask the questions, and then I will answer those questions in a follow-up setting. Now, why am I saying that? Because Herbert Drayton's feedback to me was education. Does that make sense? It was education. It wasn't, man, how Herb gonna do me like that? Or, man, now come on. No. He knew that what I was doing was serious, and he knew I wanted a serious business opinion about it, and he gave me a serious business opinion. Marcus, I'm never going to read all of this. It's too dense. Get your team to go back and streamline it. Just give me the big picture, and then we'll go from there. But he gave me some fantastic feedback. So what I'm saying to you is, when you look at no as education, when you look at no as feedback, when you look at no as the opportunity to improve your skill set in presentation, in selling, in being persuasive, in being a leader, and how about this? Actually selling the right product to the right person. You know, sometimes you're selling the right product to the wrong people. And then there are times you've got the wrong product and you're in front of the right people. This is why, going back to my first conversation, if you guys go back to last Wednesday, I think, last Tuesday or Wednesday, go back and review that one. I talk about how to make sure you have a valid business idea. That just because you're passionate about it doesn't mean people are going to pay you for it. I'm going to say that after I make my comment. But listen, go ahead and drop your city and drop your state in the chat. As you're coming into this conversation, drop your city and drop your state in the chat. So, as I just said, it's highly possible that you can have an unvalidated product or service. Now, again, you've got to understand what I'm trying to say here. I know there are people who listen to this, and they're coaches, they're speakers, they're consultants, they're trainers, etc. But listen to me very carefully. People have to already be paying for what you're selling. If no one is paying for what you're selling, don't sell it. If no one is already spending money on it, don't spend money on it. Don't try to persuade other people to do it. You don't have enough money to do that. So when you go back and look at like Amazon and the way Amazon was built, right? You look at, selling books on Audible and Amazon shipping, and we look at eBay and these companies. They had millions of dollars to spend on marketing to persuade you why you needed those things. Apple, they had hundreds of millions of dollars to spend to persuade you why you needed the iPod and then, the iPhone, etc. Does that make sense? So you cannot start a business. You cannot expect to be successful in business when you're having to persuade people to spend money that they don't already spend money on. Meaning, look at barbers. I think I got a pretty good cut, right? But the reason why barbers exist is because somebody historically spends money on barbering. So if a new product or a new service is going to be launched, let's say, for instance, on the female side, right? I'm not sure when it started, but now you've got these. I mean, women are wearing wigs today, and you don't even know. If it's their real hair or not. It's just like it's a whole other world of wigs going on out here. My wife doesn't wear a wig. She has sister locks, which look amazing. And so I'm, occasionally in the store with her. She's buying, various products or whatever for her hair, and I just look. They have this huge section of just wigs. This store is huge. I'm anticipating that store is probably 20,000 square feet, right? And let's just say 2,500 square feet is just dedicated to wigs. I'm talking just wigs, right? I'm not having fun at the expense of wigs. I'm simply making a point that wigs have become as big as they have become, not just because of the product. It's because of who started wearing the product and started influencing culture to go that direction. So you had various TV shows and sitcoms and reality TV shows where, guess what? It was all about wigs and wigs and wigs. The women just wore wigs. Even if they had good hair, they still were paid to wear wigs. Then you got the Instagram and the TikToks, and they're showing you how to do the wigs. So my point is, all of that's marketing, and somebody is paying for all of that, is my point. So when it comes to appreciating the word no, and I want you to take this with you, no is a form of education. No is feedback. And you want to get as many no's as you possibly can. Now, isn't that counterproductive? Isn't it like, hold on for a second, Marcus, I'm trying to get yeses. What are you talking about getting no's? You got to hear what I'm trying to say. You've got to go through the no's to get to the yeses. And so you call 100 people, and you got 80 people tell you no, but you got 20 people tell you yes. But you will never get those 20 people telling you yes unless you go through 100 phone calls. So some of you, you're emailing 5 people and then nobody responds, or you're texting 50 people and 2 people respond, or you're cold calling, 20 people and 1 person responds. You've got to go through the numbers. Listen, whether it's your sales team, whether it's your marketing efforts, whether it's you doing direct phone calls, text messages, etc., whether it's a funnel, a pipeline, a landing page, etc., you've got to get as many people as possible coming across your product or services and having the opportunity to say what? No. Because the more no's you get, the more educated you get. Instead of throwing a towel in, instead of recoiling, no, you use those no's as education and feedback, and then you take those no's and you improve your website. You improve your landing page. You improve your presentation. You improve your pitch deck, like I had to do. Does that make sense? Listen, if I'm helping somebody, come on, just put yes, you are in the chat. Just drop it in the chat, because this is so important. Because whatever business you have, you should be hearing no about 100 times a month. Okay, I'm trying to help some people win. I'm trying to help some people get to and pass $1 million. Listen to me. If you should be hearing no about 100 times a month, whether it be people not responding to an email, whether it be people not responding to a text message campaign, whether it be people not responding to a social media ad, whether it be people not responding to your sales calls or etc. You should be hearing no, whether it's the verbal no or just simply what? Silence because no one responded. But you have to see that as feedback. If you're sending out a text message to 100 people and nobody responds, then that's 100 no's that you need to use to what? To educate yourself and say, okay, so I sent 100 text messages out and all 100 people weren't busy or all 100 people didn't miss my text message. So there were some who saw it and just weren't motivated to respond. So why weren't they motivated to respond? Maybe it was because my brand was off. Maybe it was because of the language that I used. Maybe it was because, the product and service that I was offering, they didn't want it. Maybe the language didn't resonate. Does that make sense? So guess what you start doing? You start asking people who told you no, give me feedback. Hey, give me feedback as to why, you didn't respond. Hey guys, listen, I sent a text message out, didn't get a pretty good response. For those of you who didn't respond, drop a quick note to let us know why you didn't so we can improve on how we sell and how we share. Does that make sense? I'm gonna give you this example and I'll be out of your way today. We had a large client back out at the last minute, decided to go with another consulting company. I mean, this was a large transaction. It was, would have been translated to, maybe about $150,000 to $200,000 in revenue within a particular year for that one particular client. And after, a few of our people had conversations with the company, and of course, ultimately they came back and said, hey, and they sent an email to the office, and then I was CC'd on it. Hey, we decided to go with another company. Thank you guys so very much for, your process, how we got to this point, et cetera, so on and so forth. So that was pretty much the end of it, right? So I let a week go by, and then I shot an email out, to a particular person at that company. I said, hey, listen, thanks very much for giving my team the opportunity to get to this point. We trust that you guys made a fantastic decision on who you guys decided to go with. However, I do have a quick question. Could you give my team some immediate feedback as to anything that we may have missed in the process as to why you chose to go with the other firm? And she gave us a fantastic debrief. I mean, it wasn't even long. It was a fantastic, 3 sentences. And guess what? It wasn't even something that we did wrong or that we missed. It was our philosophy of how we were approaching to solve that problem. Our philosophy, they were not ready for that level of philosophy or that particular approach. They were looking for something a little more introductory. And then down the road, when their team is ready, they will be looking for something more robust that we were providing. Now think about that for a second. If we had just heard the word no or declined the, whatever or didn't respond, we wouldn't have gotten that feedback. But by me sending that email about 6 or 7 days later and just asking, hey, listen, did my team miss anything? Did we miss anything? Etc. So on and so forth. And she gave us fantastic debrief. So this is what I'm saying, that we have to learn as business owners and entrepreneurs, no matter what level of company you're on and you have built, whether you're just starting out or you're ramping up to scale, appreciate the word no, because no is actually education. It's feedback. It is the school of learning that will help you refine your product, refine your service offering, polish your presentation, polish your systems and your processes so that you can deliver value at a high level, and your conversion rate or the number of people who tell you yes will continue to trend upward. But listen to me, it will never eclipse the number of people who tell you no. If 1,000 people see your ad, 350 going to respond. Does that make sense? If your sales team calls 1,000 people, 200 people going what? Are going to be interested enough in getting somewhat further correspondence. Does that make sense? You're going to hear no more than you hear yes. So having a system to filter through that process and increase the quality and the efficiency of that process is the make or break in your company growing from where you are to whatever that next number is that you're trying to get to. Is that all right? Listen, hopefully we share some things that help you in today's conversation. By all means, you see the information at the bottom. If you're in the Charlotte area, May 31st, is the Advantage 24 one-day business event focused on innovation, intelligence, and inspiration. Click the link that you will see in the chat or register at the link right there. You see some of our great sponsors who are here, who are sponsoring and partnering with us on this event. And we look forward to you. And again, if you're not in the Charlotte area, then by all means, I'm pretty sure you got some people that you know in the Queen City. I'm pretty sure you know you got some people in the Rock Hill area, or we got people who've registered as far as Durham, people who's registered as far as Charleston, etc. So again, if they're within driving distance, it's going to be a fantastic Friday. I'm telling you, business intelligence, inspiration, and innovation on the campus of Winthrop University. All right. So listen, you guys have a great Monday afternoon, and don't forget to share this message with those who may benefit, or who you believe may benefit. Okay. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.